Hi, welcome to the Online Profit Summit. My name is Lakeisha Ikigwe, and I am looking forward to sharing with you 3 keys to mastering your mindset. During this keynote presentation, you're going to learn 3 specific things to help you master your mindset. Number 1, you're going to learn why mindset matters. Why is it important for you to master your mindset? Secondly, you are going to learn how to ensure that your mindset sits upon a foundation that is one you have intentionally created. And then thirdly, we're going to discuss how you can ensure that your mindset remains in service to you. An example of a mindset that is not in service to you is if you've ever had a thought or an idea where you ended up down a rabbit hole, right? Spiraling down in a negative loop of thinking, right? That is when our mindset is not in service to us. So we are going to talk about ways that you can keep your mindset in service to you. Before we dig in, I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I have been a business owner for the last 11 years. My business is called Leader Thinking. I work with leaders in business and law around the globe. Some of my clients include Johnson & Johnson, Verizon, Accenture, Kaiser Permanente, the City and County of Los Angeles, the University of Texas, and many others. My clients also include business owners and entrepreneurs just like you. And as an entrepreneur myself, I understand the challenges that are germane to business ownership. Wearing multiple hats and experiencing overwhelm until you cross that bridge of mastery. And oh, what a difference that makes. Now, I mentioned that I work with leaders in business and law. I spent 25 years in the legal industry, starting from an entry-level position and working my way up to managing law firms. I learned a lot about business along the way, but I also learned a lot about people. My fascination with the way that people think and approach their lives and their businesses really wanted me to dig a little more deeply into that. I was always fascinated about people and the way we show up and respond and act. So I started on a journey where I took courses and became certified in mediation. I wanted to learn how people positively and successfully resolve conflict, internal and external. I looked into coaching, loved it, and decided to become certified as a life coach and also as a business coach. And then, as I mentioned, I'm fascinated by leadership. So I became certified in leadership development coaching. And then my latest certification is in emotional intelligence coaching. I wanted to understand the principles of emotional intelligence and what makes the difference between people who are highly emotionally intelligent and those who have room for growth in that area. Now, why that all matters is because as a coach and a consultant, I deploy mindset and coaching people on how to master their mindset as part of work I do every single day. The whole idea of coaching sits upon the mindset of the individual or the organizations that you're working with. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you begin the process of mastering your mindset. So one of the things that is completely in your control in life is your mindset. So what really is the definition of mindset? Well, Webster's dictionary defines mindset as mental attitude. Your mindset is essentially the way you think about things. Now, that is interesting because you may have heard the expression that thoughts are things or thoughts become things. Well, in a sense, they do. I actually like to take that a little bit further. And what I say is what you think you do, and what you do is who you are. So our thoughts really frame our actions, and what we do is who we are. That said, who we are is the greatest source of our happiness or maybe our frustration, because maybe we haven't evolved in the areas that we most want to evolve in, and there is room for growth. So how you can do that is really an important topic, and one of the reasons why I'm sharing these thoughts with you today. You can control what you think. You can control how you react and respond to things. Now, there is, in the emotional intelligence work that we as coaches do, one of the leading thought leaders in that space is a man by the name of Dr. Travis Bradberry. And he makes this very compelling statement. And believe me, I've given lots of thought to this statement, and I can tell you that I do believe this to be true. And it is this: as human beings, we experience absolutely everything emotionally first, logically second. Emotionally first, logically second. So we actually feel before we think. Why is that important? It's important because we can't control how we feel about something initially, right? When something is incoming, we have a feeling first, right? Like if you think about fear, when you experience fear, we feel afraid before we know what we're actually afraid of, right? So if something makes you leap, you have a feeling, and then you respond to that feeling. So we can't always control our emotions, or we really can't control our initial emotional response to something, but the thought that follows that emotional response, we actually have complete control over. So learning how to control your thoughts and your mindset is hugely important. Okay? So one of the keys in doing so is this. Maybe you've heard the term zone of genius. One of the key areas that I coach everyone that I've ever worked with on is learning how to identify their zone of genius so that they spend 90% of their working life, and I would even say their life, functioning in their zone of genius. Now you may be thinking, what is my zone of genius? What is she talking about? Does everyone have a zone of genius? Do I have a zone of genius? You might be wondering that. And it's a good question. So I'm going to give you some tools that you can use to identify your zone of genius. Your zone of genius is something that you do effortlessly. It is often something that your friends, your family, your colleagues compliment you on. In fact, it is something that they are so impressed by, they don't know how you do it. They're like, wow, I just don't know how you do it. They're amazed, actually. And for you, you're like, man, that's nothing. I don't even know how I do it, right? Your zone of genius is effortless. It is where your excellence exists. It tends to be easy for you. And it is where you can take something and elevate it to the next level. Okay? So think about what those things are for you. I'm going to repeat that. It's where you have excellence ease, and you can elevate. Now, this is also where natural skills and natural talents tend to exist for you. So over time, you would have had lots of experience with your zone of genius, even if you didn't recognize it as your zone of genius. Most importantly, this is effortless for you. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a few people that maybe you're familiar with. I am a lover of all things HGTV and the Food Network. So maybe you're familiar with Chip and Joanna Gaines, who are in Waco, Texas, and they flip houses. Now, Chip and Joanna are just fascinating to me. And maybe they are to you too, or anyone that you've seen in that space. There are lots of people, the Scott brothers, so many. They can see this house, and you will see them driving up to a house and you will think it should be bulldozed, right? Like, the house can't be saved. What can be done about this house? And you can see their wheels turning, right? You can see that they already know what they're going to do to that house. You can almost detect that they see the finished product of that house in their mind. Then they walk in and they show you the house and they're like, we're going to take down that wall. We're going to rip up this flooring. We're going to raise the roof. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And they're just, bouncing these things off effortlessly. It's easy for them, and they're going to elevate that house. Okay. And the house that you thought should have been bulldozed is now the house that you would love to live in, right? It's a beautiful masterpiece. It is where the excellence of their zone of genius is on display fully. Okay. So Chip and Joanna Gaines are a good example of people who work in their zone of genius. They also live in their zone of genius, right? When you look at their own home or their silos, and if you don't know who they are, look them up. Their story is really quite fascinating because they've now just purchased a network, or are a network. It's called Magnolia TV, all from being in their zone of genius, right? They just did what they do, did it in excellence, and that excellence expanded and is continuing to expand. I'll give you one other example. Another show that I love is Chopped. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's on HGTV. And these chefs get this basket of stuff, right? And they're expected to make a gourmet meal or appetizer or dessert. And the basket might have something like oysters and chocolate ice cream and okra, like just weird. My first reaction would be throw the basket away. I don't know what to do with that. And yet you see them open the basket and they're looking at the ingredients and their minds are turning. You can literally almost see the wheels turning. And then the host counts it down and says, go. And they take off. They know the other ingredients that they're going to get to make this meal. In their minds, they've already made the meal. They see the finished product. I don't see it. I'm like, throw it away. But they see it. That is an example of effortlessly being in your zone of genius. So there is something that you are, there is something that you know, there is something that you do that is you in your zone of genius. Now, what does that have to do with mindset? Well, I'm going to tell you, it actually has everything to do with it. Sometimes our mindset takes a hit when we are doing things that put us in struggle energy, right? So when we are in our zone of genius, we are in effortless energy. We are doing things that we are naturally good at. They're effortless for us. It feels good. When we're in struggle energy, it drains our energy. It makes us tired. It makes us feel like a failure. It makes us feel like we're not good at this. Because guess what? We aren't. So I'll give you an example for me. Coaching and seeing the genius in other people and connecting them to that, that's my zone of genius. It is something that I can do effortlessly. It is something that I love to do. It elevates, right? And it energizes me. Conversely, let me tell you what I'm not good at. I'm terrible at bookkeeping. I absolutely couldn't fix a car. Right? I hate all things lead pages, Infusionsoft backend, all of those tech things, can't stand them, right? Take all of my energy. Now, it's not to say that I can't do them. I've been an Infusionsoft customer for 11 years now. Actually, maybe even a little bit longer than that. No, about 11 years. So there are certain things in Infusionsoft I can do. But for someone who that is their zone of genius, something that would literally take me, and I'm not exaggerating, 4 hours would take another person 20 minutes, right? So are you getting an idea of zone of genius? Now, when I am in that struggle energy space, it causes me to have a bad day. It makes me forget what I'm really good at. It makes me tired. It actually makes me sad, right? Because I am like, I hate this. Whereas when I am coaching and consulting my clients, I am on a high. I love it. My mindset is up here, right? Versus when I'm in struggle energy and my mindset is down there. So there is a connection with mastering your mindset and working in your zone of genius, right? So what is your zone of genius? Do the exercise, right? Think about those things. People compliment me on it. It's energizing. It's a natural skill and ability that I have. It is where my excellence lives and thrives. And it is where I elevate this thing, right? Either whatever your zone of genius is in. So one of the things that you can do is, as you're mastering your mindset, become very, very clear on your zone of genius and spend time in that. Now, I can tell you, I've truly never known anyone who has operated fully in their zone of genius who's had a negative mindset. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have a bad day occasionally, right? We said this, everyone has bad days, right? We all have problems and challenges and things that we have to deal with that maybe we'd rather not. But that said, our mindset can stay even here, right? When we are in our zone of genius and we minimize, if not eliminate, struggle energy. Okay. The next point, the next key that we're going to discuss is being intentionally authentic. Now, most people think, I believe, that they show up authentically. And many do, but there are certain things that they don't know about themselves. And your mindset sits on a foundation of the strong personal foundation that you have for yourself. And authenticity incorporates that. So one of the aspects of authenticity that is key to knowing is something that is a quote from Dolly Parton. And I don't know if you are familiar with how incredibly successful Dolly Parton is. But she is just very visionary, actually, and creative, and has been strategic in her career. Anyway, Dolly says this: know what you can and cannot do, and know what you will and will not do. Now, sometimes the journey as a business owner or an entrepreneur or a leader can be really hard. There are challenges that sometimes can come at all sides. And sometimes when we are not firmly rooted in who we are, when our personal foundation isn't strong, we may bend to the pressure. So being authentic and being intentionally authentic means that you will take the time to write down even, but set what the things are that you can and cannot do and what you will and will not do. And it may be from the perspective of ethics. It may be from the perspective of how you want to show up as a service provider in a business owner, what your culture is that you're creating in your business, and what your brand values are. What do you stand for? And then how does that play out in your business? Know your own personal character, right? What are your own personal code of ethics? You know, I've known many people who say that they are a person of integrity. Now, the interesting thing about that is integrity is pretty much wholly self-defined, right? What may be a line in the sand for my integrity may not be the same line in the sand for yours. But you must know what that code of ethics, what that line of integrity is for you. What does that have to do with mindset? Well, authenticity has everything to do with mindset, because and how I define authenticity is this: you are who you say you are, you do what you say you will do. When that is true of who you are, your mindset does not fluctuate because your authenticity becomes the constant. Your authenticity is the guide, right? It's your compass. So having a clear understanding of your own personal code of ethics is one of the ways that you successfully master your mindset. The next element of authenticity is your boundaries. And you cannot have a strong personal foundation. You really can't even have a strong code of ethics if you do not have solid, clear, and established boundaries. Now, again, you might be thinking, what does boundaries have to do with mindset? Well, boundaries are a protection, right? I like to envision boundaries as like a moat around the castle. Your boundaries, what you allow to exist in your world, says a lot about who you are. So if your boundaries are not clear and stated and understood, then your foundation is not strong. And people really will not know what to expect from you. So your boundaries really are a gift because they protect you, and they help others know what to expect about how you would respond in this scenario or that scenario. You may have, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's someone very close to you. And you can say of that person, I know they would never do this or that. And part of the reason that you know that is because A, that person has a code of ethics that they live by, and B, they have boundaries about what they allow to exist around them. So your boundaries are actually how you dignify yourself, but it's also how you dignify others. And when you think about as business owners, we live in a time where fraudulent business practices are on the rise. risk management is at the forefront of, compliance requirements because business is under attack, right? And so when your boundaries are clear, not only for, again, you and what you offer, but what you allow to exist around you, what you expect of your team, of your staff, what you expect of your vendors, what you expect of anyone who is in your business orbit, it is a protection to you, and it is a protection to them. So again, you cannot have intentional authenticity, which sits on a strong personal foundation, if you don't have boundaries that solidify your foundation. And then finally, one of, I think, the most important elements of a strong personal foundation is what you tolerate. And in coaching, one of sort of the key foundational aspects of coaching is helping our clients eliminate anything that they are tolerating. Tolerations are energy drains, and tolerations often where there could be a breach of who we are at our highest and our best in terms of ethics or in terms of our business practices. Again, it will exist around maybe something or someone that we're tolerating. So as you set your intention to be intentionally authentic, remember to eliminate what you're tolerating. Now, most people are tolerating anywhere from 10 to 200 things. And the tolerations could be something as significant as an underperforming team member, a business partnership or business arrangement that just isn't working. It could be driving around in a dirty car that you haven't had time to wash. It could be having a piece of furniture that you don't like. It could be needing to update your computer. One of the things that I was tolerating was not doing my tax prep. I've dealt with that, but it was a huge toleration, right? So I've actually now turned that over to a service, and I'm so excited. So list out what you are tolerating and start to chip away at that list immediately. It's one of the ways that you master your mindset, because again, anything that you're tolerating is an energy drain. Anything that drains your energy makes you tired, takes you out of mastery, puts you in struggle, and your mindset follows that. Okay? Finally, our third key to mastering your mindset: self-care. And there are lots of ways that we talk about self-care. Maybe you have your own existing self-care routine. I want to share with you a few things that I think are really important elements of self-care that aren't often talked about. You'll hear about exercising and eating right. And, of course, we all know that we need to do that. Maybe going to get a massage or having a spa day. Those are all great ways to demonstrate self-care to yourself. But I'm going to talk about a few things that may not be what you immediately think of as it relates to self-care. Number one, every day, start and end your day with thoughts of gratitude. Start and end your day with thoughts of gratitude. So when you get up in the morning, think of 3 things specifically that you're grateful for. One thing might be that you woke up. Another thing might be that you're healthy, that you have people who love you in your life. It could be something, we have these beautiful birds that have been visiting our yard, and bluebirds and redbirds and birds of various colors and sizes. And I'm so grateful that they grace our home with their presence. So think of, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, 3 specific things that you're grateful for, and write them down. I'm not a huge journaler. I like journaling, but I'm just not a huge journaler. But that simple exercise of the 3 things that you're grateful for can make a difference. Here's something else, and this may not seem like self-care, but it really is. Make your bed every morning. And if you are a business person or an entrepreneur who works from home all the time or happens to be working from home right now, get dressed. And I say get dressed-ish, right? But, get out of your pajamas. Get into something that makes you feel like you're ready to start your day. There was this famous commencement address to a university, and I can't remember who, and I can't remember what university, but this was an accomplished admiral, I think, and one of the things that he said was, when you make your bed every day, you start the day off with a success, right? You've already completed something successfully. And I know for me personally, I hate the energy of an unmade bed. So I always make my bed every day. And it's a trigger. My day has started, right? And I head off, make my coffee. And every time I go past my bed, it gives me a sense of satisfaction. Try to avoid starting your day with the news. Sometimes that can be a challenge, right? Because now we've got alerts on our phone that tells us the news, or it may be just your go-to to start your day figuring out, what's going on in the world. I know for me, the news was becoming too heavy to start my day. It was too negative. And I wanted to start my day on a more positive mindset. And I would watch the news later, but not too late, not too close to bedtime. But I would watch it, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 o'clock, and only for about 30 minutes, 1 hour at the most. Limit how much negativity you allow in your life. And yes, we do need to know what's going on in the world, but it can also put you in a funk and diminish your productivity, your joy, and your happiness. And that could be channeled elsewhere for you to be in service to causes or people that you love and want to advance. So this is not healthcare advice in any way, shape, or form. But I would say take your vitamins, right? If you have a supplement that you take, a multivitamin or something like that, to boost your energy and sort of replace anything that you may be lacking. I find that to be a huge aspect for me of self-care. I've usually hit and miss about vitamins, but I've decided lately that I want to be regular, and I've become regular with it. And it feels so loving to me every time I open up my packet of vitamins and I'm intentional about taking them, and each one says that it does something right specific. And I just feel good about my body. It's a small thing, but it makes me feel like I'm loving myself a little bit better. The 5th thing is feel your feelings, right? Don't ignore your feelings. Sometimes in order to kind of get through the day or get through our tasks, we will push our feelings down, push them down, try to ignore them, try to think about something else. One of the things that, if you don't know this already, you will learn is that our feelings and emotions will refuse to be ignored forever. And they will show up at the most inopportune time, right? And so maybe sometimes they will show up in the form of rage and anger, or sometimes they will show up in the form of sadness that doesn't seem to necessarily be connected to something else. Like you may just say, I'm feeling sad and I don't really know why, or I'm feeling angry and I don't know why. Feel your feelings. Try to identify what you are feeling. If the feeling has been triggered by something that you can fix and control it. And if not, once you've identified it and there really isn't much you can do about it, do your best to let it go. Feel it, identify it, fix if you can, release. The sixth point is connect with people who love you. And maybe even ask them, why do you love me? I know that may sound crazy, but you can ask people to tell you, what do you value and appreciate about me? What do you love about me? Why am I special to you? Knowing how others experience us and what value we add to their lives can be a form of self-care, because having that knowledge is going to make you feel so good about yourself, right? It's going to boost your mindset. It's going to give you something to reflect on when you may need to shift your mindset, right? Instead of spiraling down a rabbit hole. And then finally, one of my favorite things that I've learned recently, I read an article, and I'm going to give you a little background on it. It was this woman who was writing about her relationship with her daughter, her small child. The child was 4 years old. And she felt like she and this child were like oil and water, which is sad, right? And she just could feel that she wasn't giving her child the love and attention that that child deserved, craved, and longed for. And actually that she had longed to give that child too. So she said one day her child had asked her a question and she had responded in a way that was usual for her. And she looked at her child's face and she could see the devastation that she had created in her child. And she said that she vowed that day that she would shift that. And her phrase for that was, only love today. Only love today. And so whatever was loving, if loving was to say yes to everything, then it was yes all day, but it was only love that day. So there was no anger, no fear, no sadness, no correction, just love. And so I have applied that even to myself, right, with me. Sometimes I may want to push myself to get some work done or push myself out of my comfort zone, which is not a bad thing, but maybe emotionally it might not be the right time to do that pushing. And so I will say to myself, Lakeisha, only love today. Only love today. And then I will figure out a way to expand my own self-love and my love for others. So those are 7 self-care steps that are part of a key to mastering your mindset. When you are not in radical self-care, it is very hard to maintain a mindset that you have mastered, right? There's even keeled, which is a mindset where all the good stuff happens, right? All of the influence and the impact, the good work, your zone of genius lives in that elevated, positive mindset. And all the negativity exists when our mindset starts to spiral or head downward. So these 3 keys can keep you in a positive mindset space. So again, we covered 3 things. Number 1, we talked about being in your zone of genius, keeping yourself in that effortless energy space and avoiding that struggle energy space. We talked about being intentionally authentic, right? And that entailed building and establishing a strong personal foundation, knowing what you can and cannot do, knowing what you will and will not do, your personal code of ethics, knowing that you have a constant a constant state of being, constant state of being who you are, right? That also included having really clear and strong boundaries. People understand who you are based upon your boundaries, and they respect that. Your boundaries are part of your offer, what you offer to people, and they are part of how you protect yourself. It is how you dignify yourself and others by controlling what you allow to exist in your world. And then also it includes eliminating tolerations. And again, make that list of what you're tolerating and then create an action plan to start eliminating them. Tolerations are energy drains. They bring your energy and your mindset down. And when you eliminate them, your mindset mastery will be the place where you live. And then finally, the third key was self-care. And remember, do those things in the morning. Gratitude. In the morning when you wake up before you go to bed, make your bed. Keep a tidy environment. When we have chaos around us, it will cause us to feel chaotic. And when we're feeling chaotic, mindset goes down, right? We talked about drawing a blank. Several things, right? Making sure that you monitor how much news you take in and when you take it in. Making sure that you only exist in a space, if possible, of love for yourself and love for others, right? Those are elements of self-care that will keep your mindset elevated. So I want to thank you for taking this time with me today. It really has been an honor and a privilege to talk to you about 3 keys to master your mindset. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know which of these 3 keys you're going to implement and when and how. So feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at lakeisha@leaderthinking.com, but also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you and your business and what you're doing in the world. I am on LinkedIn 24/7 pretty much, and if you send me a connection, I'm going to accept it. I look forward to enjoying the rest of the speakers here at the Online Profit Summit. There's going to be some great information, lots of learning, lots of takeaways. It has been my honor and my privilege to have this time with you, and I look forward to meeting you. Take care. Thank you.